All right, good people, I am here at FSP. So they make power supplies. They've done some game in the case market, and this is their way of trying to cut back into that case market, because this is a CUT, aka their new case, the CUT 593. The 5 is like the the BMW 5 Series. 93 is part of the different collaboration. And huge thanks to our sponsors for making this trip possible: Thermaltake, MSI, Cooler Master, and Phanteks. Without you, none of this would have been possible. So the CUT 593, from the exterior, looks like your standard mid-tower enclosure, but there are a few really interesting things under the hood that I'll show you a bit later. But on the top panel, you can mount fans above the frame, which is good for airflow. We have three 140mm fans for the front intake, one for exhaust. Price point, $79 to $89 with 4 RGB fans included, which I think is a stellar price point in terms of like having good I/O, feeling like it's a a bit of a character design that isn't just your standard copycat of all other standard black and white enclosures. But when we look at the back, this is where things get really, really interesting. So looking at the back, what we have here is this cable management plate. So when you buy a standard enclosure, you have to do all the cable management yourself. So the CUT, which by the way stands for Chassis Ultra Tower, it will come with this magnetic cable management plate with pre-installed extensions for your 24-pin, dual 8-pin for the motherboard power, and of course your PCI Express for GPU power. So this magnetic plate, I'll show you later, it just comes off. It has pre-drilled holes for all the cable comms that just attach directly onto this. So the idea is to simplify cable management when you buy an enclosure. So this just opens, and you can see these extensions lead into the power supply chamber, and these are extensions. You don't plug them directly into the power supply, you plug them into the cables for the power supply, which means this whole design is universal, so you don't need to go with an FSP power supply, but of course, if you're after quality, it might be recommended. But these extensions, as you can see, are pre-routed very beautifully, so you avoid routing things. Everything is kind of pretty cleaned up, and that's the whole idea of like doing cable management right out of the box that is nicely and easily accessible. Here on the back case, you can see these white extensions beautifully routed. So if you're after that like DIY custom look, where the cables are the perfect length to reach the motherboard spots, everything is kind of like well designed. I feel like it's a really good idea. They are targeting the case to be the affordable budget price point of $79 to $89. The actual cable management plate with pre-installed cables, we are told, is going to be really affordable. I mean, it makes sense, it's just 3 extensions cables anyway, so I'm really hoping that it's going to be quite competitive. And also will come with a power supply as a combination if you want to get like all 3 and just run with an FSP power supply, extensions, and the enclosure. So this back plate is magnetic. As you can see, we have also this protective element so that if you do mount any side installation for radiators or fans, you won't be putting your fingers through it. And this thing is magnetic, so is the bottom plate. And the CUT 593 will also come with interchangeable front plates. So one for a little bit more airflow with a unique design on the actual plastic to allow the airflow to kind of go in a swirl, so when it actually enters with the fans, there is already a little bit of aid coming from the front panel. I did not expect that. Also, a really high performance mesh filter, and this fabric mesh that we've seen from the Phanteks design is really good for airflow, really good for dust catching without sacrificing on performance, and I'm really happy someone else is exploring different materials for the front panels. It is also magnetic, so easily removable, and I can't wait to start working with FSP enclosure. Would be a first experience for me. All right, Mike, it's your turn now.
All right, we got coolers.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Oh, we're going together?
We're both going together. All right, so continuing with FSP, they are actually entering my little realm of the world, which is the air cooling game. So what we have here is yet another competitor, supposedly, to the D15s, Dark Rock Pro 4s, those type of coolers of this world. Supposedly they're actually targeting something close to like the Montech DT24 that I covered in a big roundup, sort of right up here. Now, what makes this so special versus every single other tower heatsink that's out there? Well, there's a couple things. First of all, they really have a focus on cooling current generation CPUs. It is not based off of something that is like 5 or even 10 years old as some of these other coolers that we've been looking at. So what they've done is they've increased the number of heat pipes, but they've made them actually smaller in order to basically sort of condense their base plate. And if you saw a bunch of our other videos, what you'll know is that is the perfect thing to do when cooling 13th gen CPUs and also the Ryzen 7000 series, because of the location of those heat spots within the processor and how the heat is transferred through the IHS into the base plate of these coolers. The other thing that they've done, other than the fact that this is almost 100% memory compatible because it uses a 120 millimeter plus 140 millimeter approach to the design. So basically you take this out of the box, you choose your mounting hardware, and then all you have to do is pop it on, fans and all, and you can actually install it with the fans still installed. You see? There you go. The little Allen key goes down and come on, there we go. You just tighten it down. And that was actually done with one hand. It's like so easy. But anyways, other than that, what else do we have? What do we got? What we've got is some highly developed fluid dynamic bearing fans that have a 3-pole motor. So you're looking at very, very high-end fans on a cooler that costs probably less than $90. And that's an important number because of a lot of this inflation that we've been seeing, higher end air coolers have been pushing above $100 right now. We've actually seen some, and this is a rumor that is not confirmed, but some of the newer designs are actually going to be pushing over $135 for a tower cooler just because of the price of materials. So the other thing that FSP is actually going into is they are becoming another AIO cooling vendor. So these are right up here, some of their offerings. There isn't really anything that really jumps out as super unique about them, other than the fact that they are actually integrating a cable management channel directly into the radiator, which is absolutely brilliant. The other thing that's pretty interesting to probably a lot of you is suddenly the AIO market is going to get a lot more competitive because Asetek's patent has finally ran out. So we're going to see a lot of new OEMs entering into the market with new pump designs, with new cold plates, everything like that. And that is what we're seeing here too. There's actually a new high flow pump that has been developed in partnership between FSP and one of their OEMs, who has basically optimized flow rates, optimized the fin stack design, optimized everything else in order to make this supposedly one of the best AIOs on the market. We're gonna have to test that. We haven't gotten into AIO testing yet. I'm gonna slit my wrist if we actually do, because the amount of testing for that is just mind-blowing. But anyways, if you want to see AIO testing on Hardware Canucks, please let me know in the comments below. I'll do it for you guys. Anyways, since we're at FSP, we have to talk about power supplies too, because I mean, they are the OEM for a bunch of manufacturers that you're familiar with. Everybody from sort of like Be Quiet to Corsair, etc., etc., etc. So let's talk very, very quickly about some small guys here.
Just an FYI, here's a Dmitry for scale.
Uh-huh.
That's it.
This little guy is a 1,000 watt power supply, ATX 3.0, PCIe Gen 5, all the goodness with that. Now, this is probably the most, this is probably the most impressive one here. This is a 1,200 watt SFX-L power supply. So, I mean, the SFX market, the ITX market is expanding rapidly according to FSP, which is good news for all of us folks who absolutely love the small form factor market. And these power supplies, you're gonna see them popping up all over the place. All right, so here I am with, I guess, the one more thing moment. So I came across this as we were just leaving the booth, and this is probably one of the most interesting power supplies that I've seen in a long time. So typically, inside of your power supply, if you've seen the inside of a power supply before, it's some just really, really basic heatsink plates. But what FSP has done here is something completely different. They almost added like an air cooler heatsink inside of the power supply. So what you have is your typical fin stacks along with heat pipes that are basically transmitting heat from the hottest areas of the power supply. Now, this is an 80+ platinum power supply to begin with, so it doesn't produce a lot of heat. There's not a lot of efficiency loss. But what they want to do is bump that up to the next level. So what they do here is they add additional cooling in order to make this one of, if not the quietest power supplies on the market that isn't passively cooled. So basically it is called the Anemoa, I believe it is. So it's got your typical ATX 3.0, everything else, but I just had to stop and tell you guys about this thing because it's a heatsink and in a power supply. So anyways, I'm Mike with Hardware Canucks here at Computex 2023. I hope you guys enjoy this coverage, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Take care, guys.